Hi guys, it's me, Chazza HD, and welcome to the race watch along for the final race before the summer break in 2019, the 2019 Hungarian Grand Prix from the Hungaroring in Budapest, and with a bit of a more mixed up grid than we usually get at this type of race. I think we are in, maybe not for a great race, but definitely an interesting one and a good one here in Hungary, and I cannot wait to get into this Grand Prix as it is starting, of course, in about 1 hour's time. But guys, hopefully, no matter where you are in the world today, on this Sunday, for me Sunday afternoon, hopefully you are having a very good Sunday, and hopefully you will today be watching along with us this Grand Prix like last weekend, and hopefully enjoy the race as well. But before we get into previewing the teams and how I think today they are going to do, let's first get into the results of qualifying and what the grid is looking like for this Grand Prix today. So, Max Verstappen is starting from pole position for the first time in his career, with Valtteri Bottas alongside him on the front row. Lewis Hamilton is P3, Charles Leclerc P4, Sebastian Vettel P5, Pierre Gasly is P6 with Norris in P7, Sainz in P8, Grosjean P9, Kimi Raikkonen P10, and then from 11th down to 20th, Hülkenberg, Albon, Kvyat, Giovinazzi, Magnussen, Russell, Perez, Ricciardo, Stroll and Kubica. The only two differences for the grid is that Antonio Giovinazzi has a penalty, a 3-place penalty for impeding Lance Stroll in Q1 yesterday, so Antonio will start from 17th. That puts Magnussen up, Russell up and Perez up a place. And also, Daniel Ricciardo has basically took on an entire new power unit. So Daniel Ricciardo, of course, because he has exceeded the elements he's allowed to use at this point of the season, Daniel Ricciardo will start this Hungarian Grand Prix from the very back. So that is your grid for the race today. But now let's get into the top teams first, and let's talk about how I think they're going to do today at the Hungaroring. First off, the Silver Arrows Mercedes, who definitely would have been disappointed not to be getting pole position or even be on the front row, because I think coming to this Grand Prix, they were definitely expecting that to happen. But of course it didn't happen because Max Verstappen put in a great lap, and the Red Bull car right now, you have to say, is working very well. For this race today though, if they're going to win Mercedes, it's really going to be about the start, because at this circuit you can't really overtake unless you are a lot faster. And when I mean a lot faster, I'm talking, you know, at least half a second a lap faster. That's the only way you can really overtake at this circuit. So unless they're half a second quicker, then the only way they're going to be able to get into the lead at the first, or in this Grand Prix on track, is at the first corner on the first lap. So for me, the start, if they're going to win Mercedes, the start is vital. But when it comes to the drivers, of course, Valtteri Bottas is still Lewis Hamilton's closest competitor in the World Championship, and Valtteri, of course, is starting ahead of Lewis Hamilton on the grid. Now, if Lewis Hamilton is behind Valtteri Bottas at the end of the first lap, for me, Mercedes' chances of winning go down quite a bit, because no disrespect to Valtteri, but his race pace compared to Lewis Hamilton is not really comparable and is not really that good. And I feel as though if Hamilton can get ahead of Bottas into turn 1 at least, and then be behind Verstappen, then I do feel as though that Lewis Hamilton then can go on and win the Grand Prix. But because, again, at the start, it's hard to pass also, because the rundown isn't massively long. If he doesn't get ahead of Bottas, I think the team's chances do go down a bit, because I think Max Verstappen, honestly, in that car against Valtteri Bottas, will run away in this Grand Prix. So it'll be interesting to see what the start, or how the start goes for the team. But it'll also be interesting to see whether the team decides to pit Lewis Hamilton before Valtteri Bottas if they want to try and get after Max Verstappen at any point. So definitely look out for that in this Grand Prix. But yeah, if they're going to win, I think it really will come down to having a good start. Next up is Ferrari, who, for me, with the updates they have brought to this Grand Prix this weekend, they have aerodynamically closed the gap to Red Bull and Mercedes, because Ferrari coming to this Grand Prix, we're not expecting to be just under half a second off pole position. They were probably expecting to be about 6 to 7 tenths of a second off pole, and that's what I was expecting for this team as well. But to be, again, just under half a second behind, it does show clear progress for Ferrari when it comes to the aerodynamic balance of the car. And it does show that Ferrari, for the first time in 2019, they have brought an update that's actually worked and has actually brought the car forward in terms of pace. So great for Ferrari, but coming to today's race, if they're going to get on the podium, it's going to come down to two things. Either one, they get a great start, or two, we have reliability issues for either Verstappen, Bottas, or Lewis Hamilton. That is the only way Ferrari, for me, can get on the podium. I don't see how Ferrari, if they don't get a good start and there's not reliability issues for those drivers, I don't see how they do it, because their race pace still is not good enough. And this weekend, despite Ferrari being closer than we were expecting, they're still not close enough to, seriously trouble Verstappen, Bottas, and Hamilton. So, from a Ferrari point of view, hopefully there is some bad luck for others, and then Ferrari can get a podium today, because I think if Ferrari were able to come away with a podium, it would be a very good way to go into the summer break, and it would actually be this weekend, even though, of course, Charles Leclerc, went into the barriers in Q1. It would be probably the best weekend, or one of the best weekends they've had, in terms of it being mostly trouble-free and them making progress with their car. So hopefully Ferrari do have a somewhat positive day. And next up is Red Bull. Now, Max Verstappen, of course, is on pole position for the first time in his career. Very, very good pole position lap. And with that Red Bull car, with the way it is in the races, and with the way Max Verstappen is in the races, Max is absolutely the favourite to win. He absolutely is. All he has to do is nail down the start and hope that Lewis Hamilton is behind Valtteri Bottas for me. If he does that, if Verstappen is leading from Bottas at the end of the first lap, then for me, Max Verstappen will absolutely 100% win this Grand Prix. So, he has to make sure he gets his start right. Of course, in the last two races that he won, Austria and Hockenheim, his starts were terrible, but he still went on to win. Now, yeah, that may be a good omen for him. Having a bad start means he's going to win, but at a circuit like this, it will be very, very tough for him to make his way back through the pack if he does have a bad start and ends up, P3 or P4. So, as long as Max gets away well, maintains the lead, and again has Hamilton behind Bottas, hopefully for his sake, then it should be a Max Verstappen win. But for Pierre Gasly, for me, in qualifying, Pierre was terrible. Yes, he was P6, but in terms of his lap time, it was awful. He was almost a second slower than his teammate, which is unacceptable no matter who your teammate is. If you're a second behind your teammate, or nearly a second, that's unacceptable. And he was only about 0.4 of a second quicker than the two McLarens, Lando Norris and Carlos Sainz. He was actually, I think, about the same distance, if not closer, to Norris and Sainz than he was Leclerc and Vettel. And really, given how good the Red Bull car is this weekend, Gasly should be out qualifying the two Ferrari cars. But of course, he wasn't. So, not good enough so far this weekend for Pierre Gasly. And in the race today, he's going to be in P6 if the top 5 ahead of the finish. I don't see him getting anywhere near Vettel, Leclerc, Hamilton, Bottas, Verstappen. And I'll be honest, if Gasly does lose a couple positions at the start, I think Max is probably going to lap him. And if he laps him, then that's just further confirmation that Pierre should be dropped from Red Bull Racing, because he's simply not good enough. And if they actually had a good driver in that car, then I think Red Bull would be right on the tail of Ferrari, if not slightly ahead. So, yeah, poor by Gasly. Hopefully he can somehow improve today, but I don't think he realistically will. But guys, let me know in the live chat, before we get onto the midfield, let me know, for the top teams, how do you expect them to do today in what is, by the way, just to give you a weather update, it's mostly, if not fully, sunny. So we're going to have a race of attrition, but also a race all about tyres, it seems. But yeah, let me know what you think for the top teams and how they're going to do. Do you think for Mercedes that the start is critical? Do you think Ferrari can get a podium? And for Red Bull, do you think that they will get their 3rd win in the last 4 races? Let me know in the live chat, and for the next 5 minutes or so, I'll read out some comments and then we'll get on to those midfield runners. But before I do that, just want to say, don't forget to subscribe for consistent watch-alongs for the rest of 2019, because once the summer break finishes and we come back to Spa at the end of this month, then yeah, for the rest of the season, we'll be doing consistent watch-alongs of Practice 2, qualifying and the race. The only place you can consistently watch the watch-alongs on this website for F1. So don't forget to subscribe for that. Bottom right of the screen, you can do it right there. Or go to my homepage, subscribe, and hit the notifications bell. And also smash the like button if you want to see this content continue on the channel. But I'm going to quickly, guys, have a drink, and then I'll get back to your comments in a moment. Right, so now let's see what all you guys have to say. And by the way, great to see already 200 of you in the chat. So great to see you all here. Sebastian says it's a long run down to turn 1, which could help some drivers. Hoping for Max win, he says. Robert, Ferrari could get a podium. Bottas has too much pressure on his back. He can lose his seat today. I've said this earlier in the weekend, and I'm going to say it again. Why Valtteri Bottas his performance is being judged based on Hockenheim and Hungary, I do not know. 2 races do not decide out of a 21 race season or 20 race season, how many other races there are this season. It doesn't decide, how good that driver is. It doesn't. And if Valtteri Bottas does beat Lewis Hamilton today on pure pace, then if you're going to look at Valtteri Bottas's performances based on those 2 races, then what about Lewis Hamilton? If that's the logic you're going to use. Now, of course, Lewis Hamilton doesn't deserve to be dropped. That's not what I'm saying. Lewis Hamilton is still, for me, the best driver on the grid. But if you're only going to look at 2 races, then you've got to do it for the other driver as well. Because Lewis hasn't been massively better than Valtteri Bottas. So, yeah, I don't get why Mercedes are doing that to him. They should look at the 12 races so far this season. And if they look at those 12 races, you can clearly see that Valtteri Bottas is good enough for a seat for 2020. There is no real doubt in my mind. And it would be, for me, a disgrace if Esteban Ocon was to get that seat. It wouldn't be a disgrace if Ocon was on the grid. He deserves to be on the grid, but not in that car. He's not ready. Bottas is, for me, doing enough. So I don't see why they would drop him, honestly. Right, let's look at some other comments. Chase, McLaren will get a top 6 when Gasly botches the start today, and I'm feeling a Ferrari podium. Again, Ferrari, if they're going to be on the podium, it needs to be, again, a bad start for someone ahead or reliability issue for someone ahead, because I just don't think they'll have the pace over 70 laps to be that quick to get a podium. But I will say there is an interesting situation with the tyres and in terms of tyre choice today. I'll get onto that later on, because Ferrari might be able to go a different way on tyres today. I'll get onto that later on. A couple of people saying Lewis Hamilton is massively better than Bottas. Yeah, I don't disagree, but if you're going to use the logic that Valtteri's career, depends on 2 races, then you've got to look at also Lewis Hamilton, because Hamilton hasn't been that much better than Valtteri. In fact, he's been about the same, really. They both cocked up Hockenheim, and this weekend Valtteri's out-qualified Lewis. So I don't see how you can use that logic if you're Toto Wolff, but there you go. Right, let's look at a couple other comments and then we'll get on to the midfield. And right, let me just find a couple more. Little Light says, yeah, Bottas 2020 in the Mercedes, in my opinion. Again, I don't see how he can be dropped. It would be stupid. It'd be like Rubens Barrichello being dropped from Ferrari at the end of 2004. It wouldn't make any sense, because in the same way Barrichello was, they were clearly good enough for the team and they were part of a winning partnership. So why would you get rid of them? So I don't see Valtteri Bottas going. I think for 2021, yeah, Valtteri probably will go if Lewis is still there. But for 2020, based on what we've seen in 12 races, you cannot deny, for me, that Valtteri has been good enough. I mean, what, 5 times this season Valtteri's out-qualified Lewis? That's pretty good, if you ask me. So, yeah. Right, I think we are now... and by the way, Sparky HD, yes, I will do reviews for mid-season. And by the way, just to let you guys know, this is critical. For everyone watching right now, please stick around until the very end of the stream today, because at the end of the stream, I've got my notepad here as well to do this. I'm going to inform you guys about what is coming up during the summer break, because I have plenty of content coming up, a couple new ideas, and a couple other videos, opinion videos that I think you guys are definitely going to like and have a good debate on. So yes, make sure to stick around until after the Grand Prix. But now, let's get on to the midfield. And first off, Renault, who in quali were terrible. Nico Hülkenberg P11, and Daniel Ricciardo, of course, was P18 because he messed up his final run, getting tangled up a bit with Sergio Perez, and now has a new power unit in, so he starts from the very, very back. Today, Renault can finish in the points today. I think they probably will end up nicking a point or two, but I don't think Renault, even if they do that, they can come away from this weekend saying it was a successful weekend. I don't think they can, because at race 12 of this season, they should be in and around McLaren at the very least. But they're not. They're nowhere near McLaren. They're about, I'd say, half a second a lap slower than McLaren this weekend, which is not acceptable. It's not acceptable whatsoever. So, yeah, I think Renault, they'll probably end up in the top 10, but it won't be anything great. Nico Hülkenberg does have a good advantage of course, starting on whatever tyres he wants to for the Grand Prix. And he is the first man to do that. So he is looking good for a good, strategy and getting into the points. But for Daniel Ricciardo, starting from the back, I think the best Ricciardo can hope for is, I don't know, 13th, 14th. I don't think Ricciardo is going to get anywhere near the points. It would be miraculous if Daniel finished in the points. I think, yeah, 13th, 14th place is where Daniel is likely to finish. And if he does finish in the points, then he'll probably be the driver of the day, because to come from the back of the grid to the points at this track, which is so hard to pass at, would be an amazing performance. But yeah, for Renault, things are not looking good. They're really, really not looking good. But things are looking very, very good for the team from Woking, McLaren, who lock out the fourth row of the grid, and they are quite clearly the best team this weekend in the midfield and the best team in the midfield this season. And as long as today they finish at least in P7 and P8, that should be really confirmation that McLaren will wrap up P4 in the Constructors, because if they can get, P7, P8, which would be 10 points in the Constructors, because other teams are not likely to get anywhere near the same amount of points today, that would again wrap it up, and hopefully they can do that. If Pierre Gasly does have a poor start and the two McLarens or one of the McLarens can get ahead, I think they can beat him, because Gasly hasn't been massively faster than them and it is hard to pass here. So you never know, could have a McLaren in the top 6. So looking great for McLaren, honestly. It's great to say that, by the way, that McLaren are in a great position considering where they were this time last year. And I think today they are definitely going to have a double points finish. And again, I've said this so many times, considering that they're not really updating this car anymore and fully focusing on 2020, this team is, in terms of their track performance, they are performing so well right now, and they deserve a lot of praise for their current performance, for sure. Next up is Alfa Romeo. For Kimi Raikkonen, P10 on the grid is probably not where Kimi was hoping to be at best. I think Kimi, honestly, thought he would be, say, P8. But P10 is not too great, again, considering where Kimi and Alfa probably would have expected to be. But today, of course, is a new day, and I think Kimi Raikkonen, given how good he is when it comes to race pace, and given how good the Alfa Romeo car is when it comes to race pace, I think definitely Kimi will beat Romain Grosjean, because I think Haas will again struggle when it comes to race pace. And I think Kimi will finish in the top 9, because this circuit is a great circuit for him. He's always done well here. And I think it will be another great race for Kimi Raikkonen. For Antonio Giovinazzi, this weekend has been a poor weekend. No real pace compared to his teammate. And was very stupid in the way he blocked Lance Stroll in Q1. And absolutely 1,000,000,000% he deserved a penalty for what he did. And he starts from P17. So, yeah, Giovinazzi, no chance of points. He'll need a lot of luck if he's going to get into the points. A safety car coming at the right time or something like that. But yeah, for Alfa, if Kimi can finish in the points, I think that'd be a good enough day for the team, because Alfa are trying, after the points they lost from Hockenheim, they're trying now to recover against teams like Racing Point, Haas, Toro Rosso, Renault in the Constructors. So as long as they can get back into the groove in terms of scoring points, then that will be great for them. Next up is Haas F1, whose weird time as of late continues, because again, Romain Grosjean, who is running the Australia spec Haas car, again, a lot faster than Kevin Magnussen in the current spec Haas car. And it clearly shows you that ever since Australia, in terms of updates, Haas just went the wrong way with what they brought to the car. They brought a new rear wing at Shanghai, they brought a load of new barge board bits and bits to their floor in Spain, I believe. And clearly, they just went the wrong way on development, and I think at Spa they're probably going to put Kevin Magnussen in the Australia spec car, because clearly it's working. Romain Grosjean in Hockenheim was in, I think, P6 on the grid, and this weekend at a circuit where Haas you wouldn't think be that great, Romain P9. So great for him, great for the team. But because of their usual race pace, I don't think they'll finish in the points. But if they do, then it will just be, again, even more evidence that the Australia spec Haas car is the Haas car that they need to start bringing for both drivers and not just Romain Grosjean, because clearly that Australia spec car is pretty good. And if they had it for the entire season, who knows? Haas could be P5 in the Constructors. So, yeah, hopefully Romain has a good race. Kevin Magnussen is starting from, where's he starting from? P14, I believe. I think Kevin is probably going to finish around there, to be honest, because again, I don't think the Haas will have that good a race pace, but if they can somehow finish the points, I don't think they will, but if they can somehow do that, then great for them. Next up is Toro Rosso, whose aim today has to be a points finish because they're P12 and P13 with both cars, both drivers and both cars looking very good this weekend compared to how they were in the dry at Hockenheim before the rain came on the Sunday. So, yeah, I think Toro Rosso's aim has to be points. I think because they're starting on whatever tyres they want to, which is likely to be the medium tyre, to be honest, I think their chances are pretty good because as we've seen in the past here at Hungary, Toro Rosso always are featuring in the points on a Sunday, and their race pace at basically every race is very, very good compared to, you know, Renault, Alfa, Haas, Racing Point. So, yeah, Toro Rosso, definitely look out for them. If they can finish in the top 10, then it's a successful weekend. Absolutely. Even if it's only P10, I think they can look at that as a good weekend for the team. Because even though they are P5 in the Constructors, let's be honest, they're probably going to lose that pretty soon. Because Renault should honestly beat them to that. So as long as Toro Rosso can just, keep, nicking a point here and there, then they might be able to get a top 6 finish in the Constructors, which I think would be, if they got that at the end of the season, that might be their best ever Constructors Championship position finish. So a points finish today, even if it's P10, I think would be a great result for this team who is absolutely on a high. Next up, Racing Point. Again, as I said earlier in the weekend, Racing Point this weekend bought the second half of their B-Spec car, but it has not worked because this weekend they have had definitely a terrible weekend, and they have the worst car in the midfield and maybe the worst car in the entire field because Russell is ahead of both Perez and Stroll on the grid. So, yeah, Racing Point, awful weekend, and for them, I don't see how they can possibly get back into any type of point scoring position. I just don't see it because at the end of the day, this track doesn't suit their car. But also, this weekend, if you just look at this weekend, the pace of their car really is awful. So, yeah, Racing Point, they're not going to get anywhere near the points. By the way, Lewis Hamilton just got pushed back into his garage as they're all now coming to the grid. Don't know what that was for, but we'll find out soon. And now finally Williams, and normally I'd say Williams are going to be at the back. That'll be the case for Robert Kubica, but George Russell this weekend has been mega. And starting from P15, if we get a crazy race like we had in 2015, for example, this race in the dry, who knows? He could get a point. Who knows? He could actually get a point. I don't think he will. I think he will do well to finish ahead of Ricciardo, Perez and Stroll and Giovinazzi. But if he does do that and finishes ahead of even more drivers, then performance and driver of the weekend would have to be George Russell. Because that Williams, as I said, and you guys love this reference in my qualifying review. By the way, if you haven't checked out my qualifying review, make sure to do so before the race starts. I said the Williams is like a caravan, and it is true. It is like a caravan. In testing, it looked like an F2 car. It was so bad. To do what he's done this weekend with that car is unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. I know the Williams updates have worked, but to be 1.3 seconds quicker than your teammate and out-qualify, very good drivers such as Sergio Perez and Daniel Ricciardo, that's great. That's really, really great. But today, his job will be tough to maintain that type of position. But guys, with half an hour to go until the start of the Hungarian Grand Prix. Let me know in the live chat. For the midfield, what do you think is going to happen? Do you think Renault will be better than they were in quali? Do you think McLaren can maintain P7 and P8? Do you think Kimi can do well in the Alpha? Do you think Haas will score points again for the second race in a row? Do you think Toro Rosso can get the points? And what do you think Racing Point and Russell in the Williams can do today? Let me know in the live chat, and in a minute I will read out your comments. But again, I'm going to have a quick drink, clear my throat, and then I'll come to you guys in a moment. Right, so let's see what you guys are saying in the chat. Let me just check to see if I've got any super chats. No, I don't at the moment. Let's see what you guys are saying. Falling out EMS says Russell will get a point. A couple DNF, 1 or 2 overtakes, and he is there. It does sound very easy when you say it like that, but it will be tough to do that. It will be tough to do that. But you never know. Again, if we have a 2015 dry, chaotic type race, then there you go. Points finish. Surely, if he's there to get it. Right, let me find some others. By the way, Mike, no, I'm not drinking a Red Bull. It's just a bottle of water. Right, let me find some other comments here. Let me just look up, see what you guys are saying. Chase says Max is obliterating Gasly every weekend. Max is a beast of a driver and is still a baby. Let that sink in. Well, Max Verstappen, and this makes me feel very old, even though I am the same age as Max Verstappen. But again, I am the same age as Max Verstappen. I'm the same age as Charles Leclerc. I think a year older than Norris and Russell. And look what they're doing in Formula One. It's amazing that at that tender age that you can be that great already in a Formula One car. And let me just clear my throat a minute. For Max Verstappen, at 21 years old, to be this good already is a scary, scary thought, because he's only 21. Lewis Hamilton wasn't even in Formula 1 at 21, nor was Ayrton Senna or Michael Schumacher. So what is Max Verstappen going to be like when he's 26, 27 and getting into the physical prime of his career, or even in his 30s where Formula 1 drivers tend to hit their peak? It is really scary to think how great Max Verstappen is going to be when he actually gets into the prime of his career. And even scarier, his prime is still, what, 4 or 5 years away? At least. So once Lewis Hamilton retires, which hopefully is not... it's not soon. I want Lewis Hamilton to stay on the grid so we can have great battles between, you know, Max Verstappen, Lewis Hamilton and Leclerc and drivers like that. Russell hopefully as well. Max Verstappen, once Lewis Hamilton does retire, Max will be absolutely the best driver on the grid. And will, if he is in the right car and in the right team, Max will dominate Formula One. He's that type of driver. He is a, talent-wise, he's a Senna, he's a Schumacher, he's a Hamilton type driver. He really, really is. And again, considering he's only 21, it's a very, very scary prospect. Sorry about my throat, by the way, guys. It is very sore. Let me just clear it again. But yeah. Scary prospect is Max Verstappen. But I think now, with 25 minutes to go until the race, I think it's now time we get on to the tyre situation. And here you go. So these are the available and used sets or new sets of tyres that we have for the Grand Prix today. Now, as I said earlier with Ferrari, in terms of they can do something different with tyres, this is what I mean. So let's first look at Mercedes and Red Bull. So Mercedes, Red Bull and Ferrari, by the way, are all starting on the medium compound tyres. So they'll go medium to hard. But Ferrari, again, they're also starting on the medium tyre. But both Sebastian Vettel and Charles Leclerc have a new set of soft tyres. Now, according to Pirelli, the quickest way to do the race today is to start on the soft, go about 25 laps, or 25, 30 laps, and then go on to the medium tyre until the end. Now, if Ferrari can get, say, to lap 45 on medium tyres and put on the soft tyres, then that could, if Ferrari are, close enough, that could put Ferrari in a position to be near a podium or even on the podium. Who knows? So definitely look out for the first and what is likely to be only round of pit stops, because pitting a second time around this circuit, given that you'll get held up in traffic if you will drop back in behind traffic, is not a smart thing to do. But if Ferrari can go long enough on the medium compound tyres and go onto the soft tyres, then that really, against Hamilton, Bottas, Verstappen and their worn hard tyres, that will make for a very, very interesting end to this Grand Prix. And then as I scroll down, it's the usual case of drivers who started outside the top 10 have soft tyres available, such as Ricciardo, Hülkenberg. Also Gasly has a new set of soft tyres, so he might do the same as the two Ferrari cars if they do decide to do that. And hopefully for the interest of this race, they do that. But you can see there, Grosjean cites Norris. They're going to do probably a soft to hard strategy, I think, or maybe soft to medium. And then, yeah, Perez and Stroll have plenty of tyres. Kimi, he'll do a soft to hard or soft to medium. And then Giovinazzi, Kvyat, Albon, Russell, Kubica, they'll probably all start on the medium compound tyres, like everyone, outside the top 10. So, yeah, that is the situation when it comes to tyres for this Grand Prix. But definitely look out for Ferrari, because with that new set each of soft tyres for Sebastian Vettel and Charles Leclerc, if they're close enough when it matters, then who knows? Who knows what they could do? Because the soft tyres, if they hang on better than we think that they're going to, then that could put Ferrari right in the reckoning for a podium. So definitely look out for that in this Grand Prix. But now, I think with 22 minutes to go before the race gets underway, I think it's now time to put my predictions on the screen, and also I'll bring Nib in a few minutes time once I finish with my predictions to get his thoughts, and then of course we'll get into the last few minutes of build up. But guys, make sure in the live chat to put in your predictions for the race today. Who do you think will win? Who do you think will finish in second, third, fourth, fifth? And then if you want to complete the top 10, then go ahead and do so. But yeah, for the next 20 minutes, put in your final race prediction for today's race. And I will, for the final, say, 15 minutes before the race starts, I'll read out all of the predictions and what you guys have to say. So make sure to do that in the live chat, and I'll do that soon enough in about 5 minutes time. But let's now get into my predictions for this Grand Prix. Winning the race, in my opinion, will be Max Verstappen, because I think Max will get away well this time compared to his other two race victories. And when he started those races, I think he will get away well this time. He'll get into turn 1 in the lead, and because I think Valtteri Bottas will be P2 at the end of the first lap, I think that will allow, as I said earlier, Max Verstappen to win this Grand Prix. So, yeah, I think Max Verstappen, he's got the pace. The Red Bull car aerodynamically is so good right now, and I would honestly say the Red Bull at the moment is about level with Mercedes aerodynamically. The only thing they're missing is a bit of power, but if they can try and close in Honda on Mercedes in terms of power, then Red Bull for the rest of this season might be winning a lot of races. But if Max does win today, it'll be his first win at the Hungaroring, and if Red Bull do win, it'll be their first win in Hungary since 2014, where of course Daniel Ricciardo provided that classic drive in that classic race at the Hungaroring in 2014 to win. Red Bull, honestly, haven't had that great of a record in terms of winning races here. The other race win Red Bull have had here is 2010 with Mark Webber. So, not a great win record, but of course, they'll try to add to that today. In second place, I'm going to go for Valtteri Bottas because I think Valtteri will maintain P2 at the end of the first lap. And I think because it's so hard to pass here, and because Valtteri, I think, will have just about enough speed to finish in P2, I think Valtteri will finish in P2, absolutely. But if he does, by some miracle, win this Grand Prix, then it'll be his first ever win in Hungary. And the team Mercedes are looking to get their second 1-2 in the race in Hungary. The last 1-2 here was 2016 with Lewis Hamilton and Nico Rosberg that day. So they'll be looking to get that. It'll be tough to get that, but who knows what could happen in the Grand Prix today. And in third, of course, I think will be Lewis Hamilton, who really, in terms of winning this race, if he doesn't get a great start and gets at least up to second, I don't see how he wins. Really, Lewis Hamilton, if he doesn't win today, he really blew the race win in qualifying, because at this circuit, if you're on pole, then you've done about 70% of the job. And that's why, for me, Max Verstappen is absolutely the favourite to win. Because, again, if you're on pole position, you're almost there to win the race in a similar way to Monaco. As they say, Hungary, this circuit is Monaco without walls. So I think Lewis Hamilton really did kind of blow it in qualifying. But if Lewis somehow can win this race from P3 on the grid, which hasn't been done since 2015 in that classic race with Sebastian Vettel, then that will be his 7th win at the Hungaroring, and I believe he will equal Michael Schumacher for race wins at this circuit. And the team is going for their 4th race victory in Hungary. They've won every, well, not every race here. They won here in 2013, 2016, and of course last year in 2018. It's not been the greatest circuit for them in terms of on the race day. They've not always been that good here, even when they were dominant. So it's not the greatest racetrack for them, but I think that is what's going to happen today. Max Verstappen will win, Valtteri Bottas will finish in P2, and Lewis Hamilton will finish in P3. But let me now bring in Nib for the race watch along and get his thoughts as to what will happen for the podium positions. Nib, how you doing, mate? And yeah, what do you think will happen in the top 3 positions for the race?
I'm doing very well, thanks for asking, and I hope everyone in the chat watching at the moment is doing well also. But let's get away into our predictions for the Grand Prix ahead. And I don't think that you can really go against Max Verstappen. He's in absolutely superb form. He's been the best driver on the grid so far this season, without question for me. And I think that it's going to be Max Verstappen winning the Grand Prix, second ahead of Valtteri Bottas. I believe Bottas is going to stay ahead of Hamilton in second place. And then in third, I think it's also going to be Hamilton. So I think it's going to be fairly unchanged, the top 3 positions in the Grand Prix. But I don't think that will mean that that we're going to have a boring race. I think there'll be a bit of battling between Bottas and Verstappen, ultimately before Bottas has to drop back for a couple of seconds, just to keep those tyres under check and everything. We'll see a lot of action around when the pit stops are about to happen, but hopefully we'll have a good race.
Yeah, hopefully we will, and I think we'll definitely get, especially in the midfield, a race of interest for sure. But yeah, 15.5 minutes to go, guys, until the race gets underway. Let me know right now in the live chat, who do you think will win? Who do you think finishes second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth? And yeah, I'll start reading it out in a moment. But I just want to say again, don't forget to subscribe for consistent watch-alongs for every race remaining in 2019, as that is what we do for practice 2, qualifying, and the race. So make sure to subscribe for that. Bottom right of the screen, you can do it right there, or click on my channel name, go to the homepage and subscribe. And also hit the notifications bell and smash the like button if you want to see this content continue on the channel. By the way, I just also want to say thank you guys very much for 7,000 subscribers as we hit it yesterday. So thank you guys very much for that. And yeah, hopefully by the end of this month, very start of next month, we can get to 8k. But yeah, we're not far away from the end of year target 10k. But I'll now move on to this picture of Valtteri Bottas in between the barriers there. And yeah, let's see what you guys are saying in the chat. And let me get to the first prediction. And then I'll get reading all of it out. Let me find the first one. Right, the first one is Hans Otto, who says Max, Lewis, Leclerc. Mike says Verstappen, Vettel, Hamilton. Iceman 200 says Bottas, Max, Lewis. 292 FIFA says Verstappen, Bottas, Gasly, Leclerc. Little Light says Verstappen, Hamilton, Bottas, Leclerc. Who else? Let me just see. Verstappen, Hamilton, Bottas, Leclerc, Vettel, Norris, Gasly, Sainz, Raikkonen, Kvyat. Gina, Bottas, Hamilton, Vettel, Max, Leclerc. Savage, Savs, Verstappen, Hamilton, Vettel, Leclerc, Bottas, Gasly. Tonka, Bottas, Max, Lewis, Leclerc, Vettel, Gasly, Norris, Sainz, Kimi, and the rest. Who else have we got here? I can't quite read this out. I think it's SAEA US Gaming. There you go. Verstappen, Bottas, Vettel, Leclerc, Hamilton, Gasly, Norris, Sainz, Grosjean, Raikkonen. Jungle Brother says Lewis to win from Vettel, Leclerc, Max, Bottas, Gasly, Norris, Sainz, Kimi, and Ricciardo. And let me see if I can find a couple more here as I scroll down. Harith Zach, great to see you, says Verstappen, Vettel, Hamilton, Leclerc, Bottas. Evidence Reba says Lewis, Max, Bottas, Vettel. Super Vlogger Michael says Verstappen to win, Hamilton second, Bottas third, then Vettel and Leclerc in P4 and P5 respectively. Ben Bailey, great to see you, says Max, Lewis, Vettel. Will F1, great to see you as well. Says Verstappen, Hamilton, Bottas, Leclerc, Vettel, Norris, Sainz, Gasly, Raikkonen, Kvyat. And who else have we got? Let me just look. Formula John says Max, Lewis, Bottas, Leclerc, Vettel, Sainz, Norris, Gasly, Kimi, Kvyat. Let me just find a couple more. Rick, Verstappen, Bottas, Hamilton, Vettel, Leclerc, Gasly, and says that Russell will finish in P13. But let me just quickly move on to a different picture. There you go, Charles Leclerc in the Ferrari. And let me get to some more predictions here. Raghav Gupta, great to see you, says Verstappen, Hamilton, Leclerc, and Bottas will DNF. Trotters, Hamilton, Bottas, Vettel, Max DNF. Astro Stevo, Bottas, Hamilton, Verstappen, Leclerc, Sainz, Norris, Kimi, Kvyat, Giovinazzi. That's a surprise. You're going for Antonio Giovinazzi in the top 10. Louis Trishard, great to see you, says Hamilton, Leclerc, Vettel, Bottas, Verstappen. And who else have we got? Robert says Max, Lewis, Seb, Leclerc, Bottas, Gasly, Lando, Sainz, Kimi, and Hulk. And says Verstappen for the win. And Prussia says Hamilton, Bottas, Verstappen. Let me just see if we can find any other ones that I haven't read out yet. Bradley Williams says Verstappen, Hamilton, Bottas. Prosecutor says Verstappen, Hamilton, Bottas, Vettel, Leclerc, Norris, Gasly, Sainz, Grosjean, Raikkonen. And let me just see if there's any others here. Let me just go back to where I've left off because I've accidentally scrolled down a bit too quickly. And right, let me just get back to where I was. So there. And I'll quickly move on to another picture. There you go, the sparking away Red Bull. Mr. Claus, Verstappen, Hamilton, Leclerc. Find some others. Yeah, and Book says Hamilton, Max, Ham, Norris. Trinidad, Adrian says Hamilton, Bottas, Leclerc. Energetic says Verstappen, Leclerc, Hamilton, Vettel. Adam Elliott Jackson says Verstappen, Bottas, Leclerc. Blake, Verstappen, Hamilton, Bottas. Lucy Marsh, Verstappen, Hamilton, Bottas, Vettel. Do Balut says Verstappen, Bottas, Hamilton, Leclerc, Vettel, Norris, Ricciardo, hopefully. TD, Hamilton, Vettel, Leclerc. Azim, Leclerc, Verstappen, Bottas, Hamilton, Vettel. Charles Nightingale, Max, Bottas, Lewis. And I think I've read out as much as I can for now. But what I'm going to do, with 9 minutes to go until the race, is let the new people watching live what we do here for the watch-alongs if you are new and you are unsure as, again, to what we do on the watch-along. So, obviously, I do not show live coverage of the session or the race because that would be obvious copyright infringement. Of course, if I could show it, I would, but I can't, so I'm not going to. So, what I'll do is put as many pictures on screen from Twitter as to, what is going on. Just to, show you the cars on circuit and show you close battles on track if I can. And yeah, that's what I'll do there. Then I'll have in the top left, I'll have either the formation lap has started or the race has started. Again, I don't have a lap counter yet. I'm working on it for probably next year because I need to work on a system that, can do it effortlessly for a lap counter. So yeah, I'll have formation lap has started in the top left when it has started and race started when it has started. And all you have to do, if you want to know what lap it is, all you have to do is listen to our commentary and you will know what lap it is, because we'll make sure to read out, say, every 2 or 3 laps at the very most what lap we are working on. Of course, it's a 70 lap Grand Prix. Also, along the bottom of the screen, I'll have a running order with the current running order of the Grand Prix, and I'll get that started up in a few moments time. And also, me and Nib will provide a radio style commentary of what is going on at the circuit. So if you're out and about and you can't watch the race or watch this stream, but you can only listen, then don't worry, we'll keep you up to date with everything that is going on at the circuit. And also, if you want to properly with us watch along, then make sure because my feed is actually a bit behind other people's feed for about 45 seconds to a minute. When the formation lap gets underway, make sure to pause your feed of the race, and then when I say formation lap is go, then press play again, and you should be synced up with me and Nib for the Grand Prix. But if you don't want to do that and you're watching along, no problem. But if you are not watching the race, of course, then that won't be an issue for you. So yeah, that's what we do for the watch-alongs. And yeah, we have now 6.5 minutes to go until the race gets underway. Let me just look at some other, if I can find other comments or predictions here. McLaren 1-2, I just saw there. Manler, Seb, Charles Max's prediction. Cameron, Verstappen, Vettel, Hamilton, Bottas, Leclerc, Sainz, Gasly, Norris. But yeah, 6 minutes to go into the race. Nib, I just want to ask, for the midfield, who do you expect to be good and not so good?
I expect, obviously, McLaren to be good. Of course, Haas did have, well, I say Haas, Roman Grosjean in the old Haas car had a reasonable result in qualifying, but of course they will go back during the Grand Prix. But I expect the strugglers to be Renault, if I'm perfectly honest.
What do you think the issues of Renault are at the moment? Because, of course, yesterday was awful, and I know Ricciardo had the whole miscommunication with Perez, but in terms of the pace of the car, it's just not there, is it?
The front and the rear of the car just aren't connected, which is just creating absolute chaos. And around the track where you need the car to be connected, it's just not helping them whatsoever. So that's what they're struggling with, and it just it amplifies itself on heavier fuel during the Grand Prix. So yeah, I'm really expecting Renault to struggle here today.
Yeah, I think they will. I think they will. I think at best they'll nick, say, a point. At the absolute best with Nico Hulkenberg, only because really he gets to start on whatever tyre he wants to. But I'm now going to get the running order going. This is the starting grid for the race. So, Max Verstappen is on pole position. Valtteri Bottas is second. Lewis Hamilton third. Charles Leclerc fourth. Sebastian Vettel fifth. Pierre Gasly sixth. Lando Norris is P7. Carlos Sainz is P8. Romain Grosjean is in P9. Kimi Räikkönen P10. Nico Hulkenberg is P11. Alexander Albon is P12. Daniel Kvyat is P13. P14 on the grid is Kevin Magnussen. 15th is Russell. 16th is Perez. 17th is Giovinazzi. 3-place penalty, of course, for blocking Stroll. Stroll is 18th. Kubica 19th. Ricciardo 20th because Ricciardo has a new power unit in. And the reason they put that in, by the way, is because, you know, he qualified so far back. There's no point continuing with the old unit. And, yeah, might as well just go to the new one straight away. But I'm going to quickly put a picture on the screen of Max Verstappen as the F1 intro on my screen is now starting to play. Here is Max Verstappen talking to his engineer right before the race gets underway, and he definitely has to be the favourite for the race win today. Nib, Lewis Hamilton came back into his pit box. Do you know why, or were you not watching at the time as to why that happened?
Was not paying attention at the time. So I don't know.
Yeah, Lewis Hamilton for some reason came back into the pit lane and was put back in his garage for some reason. I don't know what it is, but he is lining up for the race. So it must have been just a minor issue or something like that. As yep, the F1 intro is now in full effect. And now describing the history of Budapest and stuff like that. But guys, get your final comments in the chat, and I'll make sure to read out your comments before we get underway. By the way, great to have almost or just about 1,000 of you watching us live. Great to have you all along live. Of course, last weekend we had an absolute blast in the race. Hopefully it's another blast here in Budapest for the Grand Prix in Hungary. Just getting some other predictions here. Barkin says Verstappen, Hamilton, Leclerc. Got another person saying praying for Max, Red Bull and Honda today. And yeah, would be great for Max Verstappen and Red Bull and again Honda if they got another win in 2019, as now they come to the grid, I think, in just a moment. By the way, again, weather conditions today are very good. Very, very good. It's a very hot day at the Hungaroring, meaning tyre wear is going to be critical today because the tyres do react to heat quite a lot. So because of that, again, tyres will be important. The top 6 on the grid all start on medium tyres. We know that. Norris, Sainz, Grosjean and Räikkönen start on the soft tyres because, of course, that's what they qualified on in Q2. And then everyone outside the top 10 is most likely going to be on either the medium tyre or the hard compound of tyre, because you don't want to start really on the soft tyre because tyre wear, once you get past lap 10, is going to be bad, especially if you're following another car or you're having to hold up other cars behind you. But I'll get rid of the timer now and now get the text ready, as the formation lap will be underway in just a moment. And the formation lap has not officially started. I'm just getting the text ready for when it does, as they're about to get underway for the formation lap in Budapest. And thankfully, there will not, like in Hockenheim, be any delay to the start of the Grand Prix. As seeing on my TV, Charles Leclerc there, as the Ferrari mechanics are about to take off his tyre covers. And of course, again, he will be starting on the medium compound tyres. And it'll be interesting to see what the drivers outside the top 10 are on, as Lewis Hamilton now putting his racing gloves on ahead of the formation lap getting underway. As we're seeing now Valtteri Bottas, and I'm going to assume on the TV we'll see Max Verstappen in a moment. And if Valtteri is going to win today, then it'd do great for him in terms of keeping his seat, of course. But if he's going to win, he's got to get ahead of Max Verstappen at the start. So, yeah. As formation lap is about to get underway, as the Dutch army is in the crowd expecting a Max Verstappen win, considering he is starting from pole position, as now all the tyre covers come off. And can't quite see what the bottom 10 are on as of yet. And yet the front runners on mediums, and they're about to get this formation lap underway. So everyone outside the top 10 is on mediums, except for Daniel Ricciardo, who is on hard compound tyres. So yeah, that is to be expected, as the formation lap is now go at the Hungaroring. Nib, are you synced up with us?
I went to press play and it's put me back about 5 minutes, so I just have to go back a little bit.
Well, I'll make sure to give you a cue for when they go into the last corner, when Max Verstappen goes into the last corner for the formation lap, if I can.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're now on the formation lap, as Max Verstappen is now heading through turn 3 and up to turn 4, as they are now warming up those medium compound tyres. And as comes on the screen, the predicted strategy for today, if you're starting on medium tyres, is to do medium to hard, and if you're on the softs, then you're probably going to do soft to hard. Because, again, if you're on the harder tyres at this circuit, the harder the tyre you're on, probably the better you're going to perform. Let me just get another picture on the screen. There you go, of Max Verstappen.
Just as they go into the last corner, just let me know when Max goes over that white line.
Okay, is it the DRS line?
No, the pit entry line.
Oh,
the
okay.
safety car restart line.
As now we're getting to, and Max Verstappen now comes into the penultimate corner. Race will be getting underway very soon, as he now comes through the final corner and crosses the line right now. So you synced up?
Yep.
Right, all good. So the race will be getting underway in probably half a minute's time. And I'll get the text ready. Race has not officially started, but it will in about half a minute's time. In the final race before the summer break, can Max Verstappen win again in Formula 1, and can Red Bull get their third win of the last 4 races? Let's see. It's his first career pole position, and he's the 100th driver in history to be on pole in a Formula 1 Grand Prix, as the drivers at the back are now coming into their grid slots, as Daniel Ricciardo is about to line up in last place for the Grand Prix, as Toto Wolff looking nervous, and the green flag now goes, and the lights come on. It's 3, it's 4, and it's 5 in Hungary, and it's go in Hungary, as Max Verstappen gets away very, very nicely, and Lewis Hamilton straight away in the slipstream, and so is Valtteri Bottas. Hamilton going to try and go round the outside. Verstappen breaks down the inside. Bottas locks up a lot, and Bottas just about keeps the position. There's a Ferrari there and a McLaren in there. Gasly's had an awful start. The 2 McLarens are ahead of Pierre Gasly, as Bottas trying to hold off Lewis Hamilton. Locking up again. and almost contact, but Hamilton goes right round the outside of Valtteri Bottas. What a move by Lewis Hamilton, and now Valtteri under threat from a Ferrari. Has got ahead and touched there, I think, of Charles Leclerc. So Valtteri Bottas down to P4, and two absolutely gigantic lockups on the front tyres, as yet we have two McLarens ahead of Pierre Gasly, as it's Verstappen from Hamilton. Charles Leclerc is in third, and here's a replay of Valtteri locking up, and I think he did at points just about touch. And yeah, there you go. Hopefully Lewis Hamilton's tyre is not deflated from that for the team's sake. As Valtteri, I do think, has slight damage to the front end of the car. Look at that. Raikkonen is now past Pierre Gasly as well, as they now come round the final corner. Oh, and Valtteri goes very wide there. Sebastian Vettel's going to be all over the back of him, going down to turn one. The Ferrari engine now kicks in. Valtteri defends the inside. Sebastian Vettel round the outside, and he gets the move done very comfortably, and Valtteri is down to P5. What a horrible start for Valtteri Bottas, Nib.
Absolutely awful start. Multiple lockups, and in a race where, of course, which is very important coming into the contract negotiation period, he's not had a good start whatsoever. He's got yellow flags in sector.
Oh, hold on a minute. You've gone silent for some reason. But Max Verstappen is now on lap 2, coming to the halfway point of the lap. Are you back, Nib?
I'm back.
For some reason you went silent, but finish your point.
I think I did finish my point. I was just saying that Bottas can't make mistakes going into that contract negotiation period, and that's exactly what he's done. Is there are some Mercedes mechanics out in the pit lane.
Absolutely, they might come in for a pit stop, as Valtteri is not under pressure from the McLarens, but the McLarens are definitely there, as we are now coming on to lap 3, so it's Verstappen from Hamilton, and yep, they're coming into the pit lane for Valtteri Bottas for a new front wing as Max Verstappen, new fastest lap, 1:21.8, 2.2 clear of Lewis Hamilton, and no, Valtteri stays out, but it's Verstappen on lap 3. Verstappen is leading from Hamilton, Leclerc, Vettel, Bottas, Sainz, Norris, Raikkonen, Gasly, and then Romain Grosjean completes the top 10. Hulkenberg is P11. Sergio Perez has gone from 16th to 12th somehow. Albon is in 13th. Then it is 14th Russell. The biggest loser at the start looks to be Daniel Kvyat. But Russell is 14th, as DRS is now enabled, of course, on lap 3. Daniel Kvyat is P15. Kevin Magnussen is in P16. Lance Stroll has had an okay start in 17th. And then you've got Antonio Giovinazzi in 18th. 19th is Daniel Ricciardo. And then at the back, of course, is Robert Kubica. As now, we are coming to the start of lap 4, and Valtteri Bottas is only a second ahead of the two McLarens, and Valtteri is already 10 and a half seconds off the lead. That is how much time he has lost, as everyone behind him, I think, has, not on Bottas, but everyone behind Sainz has DRS on Carlos Sainz, I believe. And Raikkonen is right up the back of Lando Norris for P7. And this is great news for the midfield if Valtteri continues to be this slow and Pierre does not have a good race. Here's a picture of the start and how Ferrari got into a good position, as things are now starting to settle down, as we're now on lap 4 of the Grand Prix. And yeah, Kimi Raikkonen looking pretty good here. And thankfully for Kimi, already got past Romain Grosjean, who I thought honestly would be someone holding up Kimi Raikkonen in this race, but he isn't anymore, as Valtteri is now 13 seconds off the lead after 5 laps. That is very bad. And the reason that is Max Verstappen. Oh no, Lewis Hamilton now. There's a new fastest lap. And is Valtteri Bottas coming in to the pits? I don't know. As Lewis Hamilton, no, he isn't. Valtteri stays out. As Lewis Hamilton does a new fastest lap on the end of lap 4, going into 5, a 1:21.6, I think that was. And the gap at the front is down to 2 seconds on lap 5. But Nib, do you think it's worth Valtteri coming in for a pit stop at this point?
Absolutely, he's losing so much time. Of course, he flat spotted those tyres multiple times on the first lap, and he's obviously got a little bit of front wing damage. Otherwise, they wouldn't be bringing out a new front wing. As we get a replay at the start here, Max defending the inside line very well as Hamilton, a massive lock up there by Bottas. Lock up also for Vettel there as Leclerc up into P4 there. But Hamilton with a nice, very nice move around the outside of Bottas. Very, very lucky there wasn't contact between the two. But Hamilton absolutely very good. But it doesn't actually look like there was any contact there with the front wing. It looked like that there was contact with Leclerc there. We've just seen the contact was with Leclerc into turn 4.
And
as we're now on board with Vettel for his start. Of course, he did have a lock-up turn 1, as you can see. The Mercedes getting very, very dicey down into turn 1 next to Verstappen. But Vettel also did lock up that inside front. Very lucky not to go in the back of Hamilton there. But nothing too much happening as we have a McLaren just there trying to go around the outside of Vettel.
Valtteri's
cut away with it because Valtteri's finally into the pit stops for a new front wing, and I assume he's going to go on the hard compound tyres. Yes, he is indeed going to go on the hard compounded tyre.
Yeah, that is the right thing to do as Max Verstappen now on lap 6 does a new fastest lap of 1:21.5. He goes 0.3 faster than Lewis Hamilton as Valtteri comes out the pit lane, and Valtteri is now at the back. But if the hard compound tyres work, then he should eventually get back into P5, P6, but it will be tough because if he gets held up behind other cars for too long, then the midfield runners even will start to pull away as his front wing there was flapping away quite a bit. So that promotes Carlos Sainz to 5th, Lando Norris to 6th. Great for McLaren. Kimi Raikkonen is now P7. Pierre Gasly P8. Poor start for Gasly, not what he needs. Romain Grosjean is now P9 as Verstappen goes across the line, and Lewis Hamilton, I think, set about the same lap time that time as Carlos Sainz and Lando Norris are already about a pit stop behind the leaders as Leclerc and Vettel are about 7 to 8 seconds off. So the two Ferraris are losing about a second a lap to the leader of the Grand Prix, Max Verstappen. But yeah, Grosjean is 9th. Hulkenberg is now into the points in P10. Perez is 11th in the Racing Point. Alexander Albon is 12th. Then it is Russell in 13th. Daniel Kvyat is 14th on lap 7. 15th is Kevin Magnussen in the Haas. 16th is Lance Stroll. And then it is Giovinazzi, Ricciardo, Kubica, and Valtteri Bottas. Valtteri Bottas is half a lap, or just over half a lap, behind Max Verstappen already. And as Nib said earlier, not the thing he needed when he needs to be proving himself for a 2020 seat. Giovinazzi 17th, then yeah, Ricciardo, Kubica, and Bottas as Max Verstappen comes across the line and was about 1/10 of a second quicker on that lap, I believe, as they now start lap 8. And well, Nib, Max and Lewis, they're in a different race to everyone else, aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely miles quicker than everyone else on the circuit at the moment. There you go with the live championship standings. Max is ahead of Bottas in the championship at the moment, which would be some result. I don't think it is going to stay that because I'd assume that Bottas is going to get some points during this Grand Prix. But yeah, Verstappen and Hamilton's pace has been absolutely superb. Miles quicker than Leclerc and Vettel, who did lose time more in the first couple of laps, have been a little bit better on pace in the last few laps, but still losing quite an amount of time. As we got a replay here of the view of
Oh,
Leclerc. And oh boy, that was quite an aggressive move over on Bottas, it must be said. Then Vettel looked to take advantage, but a little bit naughty there by Charles, just covering off any potential move by Bottas, but misjudged it and very lucky not to get a puncture there.
he's very, very lucky not to get a puncture. As Valtteri Bottas does a new fastest lap on the hard tyres at the back, 21.4. As Max now starts lap 9 of the Grand Prix and does a new fastest lap. And no, Lewis Hamilton now does a new fastest lap. Lewis and Max very close on time. A 21.2 for Lewis Hamilton that lap. As I just noticed, Daniel Ricciardo has just passed Antonio Giovinazzi for 17th, and Daniel Kvyat has passed George Russell for 13th. So let me update that. Daniel Ricciardo also is on the hard compound tyres like Valtteri Bottas. Here you go. Dive bomb. There you go. Classic Danny Ricciardo.
Lovely.
Even though he's in a slow car, doesn't deny him the chance to do that. And here's a replay at the start of Giovinazzi in the midfield. Any contact? Oh, that's the exact same thing that happened to Leclerc last year in the Sauber. That's the exact same thing. So again, that team getting a bit involved in contact, as noted, is Bottas. Leclerc there is a Ricciardo now all over the back of Lance Stroll as they now come up to turn 4. Ricciardo is really pushing, isn't he, Neb?
Yes, it looks like he was potentially trying to go around the outside. One of his favourite moves, of course, we've seen him pull off that move on Lewis Hamilton, nonetheless, around the outside there in 2014. But yeah, Ricciardo struggling to get through this traffic, of course, with power. Of course, the 1,000 brake horsepower Renault engine. I doubt that. Yeah, he's struggling to get past. So these moves are going to be have to made from a long way back by Daniel Ricciardo. And next up is indeed Lance Stroll. But there was a point. But yes, that's right. Giovinazzi did very well there to make sure that he didn't sustain any damage in turn 1 there. Very well done, Antonio, because he could have very easily been out of the Grand Prix or suffered some front wing damage very unnecessarily on the first lap, as now Ricciardo is closing up to the back of Lance Stroll down the straight with DRS open. He's gaining. We don't have exactly the best camera move as Lance Stroll defends the inside. Ricciardo not going to be able to do the dive bomb. I'm sure he's going to be able to look to make the move into the next corner now. Yes, he is. He's going to try and go around the outside as Daniel Ricciardo. Looks like he should have the move done here. Yes, he does. Just about keeping it on the track. Daniel Ricciardo up into P16 ahead of Lance Stroll.
Great move there by Daniel Ricciardo. And now can get after the Haas of Kevin Magnussen, who was only about a second or just over a second ahead. But yeah, Ricciardo looking great on the hard tyres. And you have to say, hard tyres are looking great at the moment, as here's a replay. So Ricciardo down to turn 2, gets the DRS and simply just has more grip, more confidence, better tyres, and just goes straight around the outside. Simple enough. So Daniel Ricciardo now up to P16 in this Grand Prix, as on lap 11 now we're on. Max Verstappen is 2.1 seconds clear of Lewis Hamilton. And I have to say, Max and Lewis are showing why they are the two best drivers in Formula 1, because they are lapping basically identically at the front, whilst Leclerc and Vettel are about a second a lap slower in the two Ferrari cars. And already Carlos Sainz in P5 is half a minute after 11 laps, half a minute off the lead. That shows you how quick Max and Lewis are at the front, as Valtteri Bottas has just passed Robert Kubica. By the way, you're seeing on your screen on my stream, that is what we were talking about with Leclerc and Bottas, and Leclerc very lucky not to get a puncture, as again, yeah, Valtteri has passed Robert Kubica for 19th place, as here is on the TV, Sergio Perez looking pretty good in P11, just about hanging on to the back of the Renault of Nico Hülkenberg and the two Toro Rossos are hanging on to the back of Perez. So we've got a good fight here for the points. And Hulkenberg is just about hanging on to Grosjean. But I will say, the Sainz, Norris, Raikkonen, Gasly group have clearly moved away from the Grosjean, Hulkenberg, Perez, Albon group, who are all battling over P9 in this Grand Prix. And Pierre Gasly is not really closing in on the drivers ahead. He's actually out of the DRS zone as we're now on lap 12 out 70. Yeah, Gasly is a second and a half off Kimi Raikkonen right now and not in DRS, whilst Kimi Raikkonen is about half a second behind Lando Norris, and Sainz is now starting to pull away from Lando Norris for P5 as Kevin Magnussen, we're not seeing him on the screen unfortunately, but Kevin Magnussen has just passed Russell for 14th place. So Russell, even though he got to 13th, as expected, is starting to drop back through the field. But again,
Still doing a tremendous job, though, is George Russell. He's about to come under threat from the Honey Badger, Daniel Ricciardo, but Russell to be up in P15 in a Williams after 12 laps really is a fantastic job, and it shows that that Williams car, with the upgrades that they brought at Hockenheim, is now starting to take a few steps forward, as it now looks like they're able to compete with the bottom end teams in the midfield.
Absolutely, and here is, as you were saying, Ricciardo on the back of Russell, and I don't think Russell is really going to fight this because Ricciardo is in a lot better of a car than what he's in, and I think it'd be a more sensible thing for Russell to not fight this, as Daniel Ricciardo rounds the final corner as we're now on lap 13 out 70. I don't know, I don't think Ricciardo's going to close in enough here.
Very poor exit. Car squirming all over the place, as I was talking about, the front and the rear not connected on that Renault, as Perez getting a little bit close to Ricciardo's teammate Nico Hulkenberg there, but not close enough.
Indeed, as Valtteri Bottas is now past Antonio Giovinazzi, and Valtteri is now only half a second behind Lance Stroll. So we'll get a Ricciardo versus Bottas battle soon. As, Ricciardo is still behind Russell in the Williams. So Bottas is 18th. Antonio Giovinazzi is 19th. Antonio has no pace compared to his teammate. Kimi is about, a couple tenths a lap quicker at the moment, as Perez is really putting Nico Hulkenberg under pressure for a possible point here. They're battling over P10. Hulkenberg not within DRS of Romain Grosjean, and that is not a good thing because we know the Racing Point in a straight line is a monster as he opens the DRS now to Sergio Perez, and also the two Toro Rossos have DRS. So once Perez, if he does get past Hulkenberg, and he's having a look, but he's not going to go for it, but if he does get past, then the two Toro Rossos will probably come through as well because they look quicker to me than Nico Hulkenberg, as we're on lap 14 and Max is still 2.2 clear of Lewis Hamilton.
I thought Perez might have had a good opportunity of getting Hulkenberg there out of turn 2 potentially, but he just didn't have a good exit out of 1, as Ricciardo's just popped himself up past George Russell, and same for Bottas up past Lance Stroll. But we see how Sergio Perez is up in P11 after he had a very good qualifying compared to his teammate Lance Stroll. But if Stroll, who hasn't made a good start like he usually does, is now finding himself down in P18 with his teammate in P11. So if Stroll, as I've been banging on for months and months now, if he can improve his qualifying, he could be up there battling with his teammate for the bottom end of the points.
Yeah, he absolutely could. And Perez, to me, looks as though he could actually get after Grosjean, because Grosjean's only a second ahead of Hulkenberg. So Perez, I think, is on for probably a P9 at best here, as replay of Valtteri Bottas down the inside of the Alpha of Antonio Giovinazzi, and Antonio trying to come back, but I don't think he did come back. And then here's Valtteri down the inside of Lance Stroll on lap 15. Oh, that's very, very, very close to losing more front wing there. Another lockup by Bottas. His brake pedal must be a bit weird, as Valtteri now passes Russell for
And
16th.
and in that replay, we've seen how Ricciardo got past Russell. He went clean around the outside of turn 2, as you do. Daniel Ricciardo's favourite move at this track.
Absolutely. And now we've got Max Verstappen. So lap 16, Max Verstappen is leading from Lewis Hamilton second, still 2.2 seconds. Charles Leclerc is third, 12 and a half off Verstappen. So Leclerc is starting to improve his pace. He's not losing as much time as he was. Sebastian Vettel, 2.5 off Leclerc. Carlos Sainz is in P5, 2 seconds clear of Norris. Raikkonen within DRS of Norris. Gasly, poor, P8, nowhere near Raikkonen at the moment. Grosjean doing well enough at the moment in P9. And then we've got a train behind Hulkenberg. Hulkenberg is the train, and then, Perez is behind. Then it's Albon, Kvyat, and soon it will be Magnussen, Ricciardo, and Valtteri Bottas, as the two Toro Rossos look quite close as they come down the pit straight, and they have DRS on Sergio Perez. Toro Rosso looking down the inside there, trying to distract his teammate. That's Kvyat trying to distract Alexander Albon. There.
Well, you say the train's starting with Hulkenberg. Well, now it's starting with Grosjean because Hulkenberg is within DRS of the Frenchman there. But indeed, as you mentioned, as we've had Antonio Giovinazzi in the pit lane, I'm sure he's gone on the hard compounder tyres to complete his one stop, or who knows, could go on a two stop. We've seen Giovinazzi on a two stop on a couple of occasions so far this season, as he's potentially not able to keep his tyres in check quite as well. But now Hamilton just under 2 seconds behind Max Verstappen, as that has been about the gap since about lap 7 or 8. It's been about 2.1, 1.9, 2.3 seconds. It has been around that, as now Bottas is closing up just outside of a second of Daniel Ricciardo, as we're just keeping on board, or the off-board shot actually, of Albon, Kvyat, and this battle for 9th place, starting with Roman Grosjean. And as you can see there, Magnussen is also closing up on this battle for 9th. Not much battling, as it's more of a train. I'm sure we might see some action potentially soon between one of the Toro Rossos, as they're just through the last corner, not able to get as good traction and get a good run out of the corner. As you can see, Kvyat going a little bit deep there, trying to create some sort of distraction for his teammate, as we've got Russell and Stroll in the pit lane now. As the Toro Rosso ahead nearly hit the back of Sergio Perez, and then Kvyat was caught out of it and made his mistake as well, nearly going spinning off the track. Oh dear.
Not much grip out there for the drivers, as Russell and Stroll have pitted, and Russell is 18th now, Stroll is 19th, and Giovinazzi has not done the undercut, so Giovinazzi effectively is in 19th, because once Kubica pits, that'll be Kubica to the back, as Valtteri is now within DRS of Daniel Ricciardo. And we do now basically have a train now behind Roman Grosjean, and Magnussen is closing, Ricciardo is closing, Bottas is closing. We could have a 7-car train for P9. So definitely look out for this. And Roman simply just doesn't have enough pace to be up there with Sainz, Norris, Raikkonen, because he's about half a second a lap slower than Pierre Gasly right now. So not quick enough is Roman in the Haas, but you have to say he's doing well enough at the moment. I thought it'd be as a Kvyat down the inside of Albon, and that's a great move, but Alexander Albon will come back around the outside. Will Daniel DRS go down the inside? He does. Hopefully no contact. Albon will try to go around the outside. Kvyat pushes him slightly. Great battling, and Kvyat off the track, and this is fantastic stuff, as Kvyat down the inside for 4, still side by side, and Kvyat is P12. What a battle between the two Toro Rossos. Game modded for P12 only, but great battle that was, Nib.
If you're one of the Toro Rosso mechanics, certainly a heart-in-mouth moment, as both cars could have easily been out of the Grand Prix, but fantastic by both drivers there to avoid contact. It's like they're on an F1 game going side by side through every single corner. Boy, oh boy, wowee, that was a fantastic battle there between the two, as Albon just about hang on there. Then Kvyat eventually up the inside into turn 4. And Albon nowhere to go off the track. And Kvyat up into P12 as we're seeing another replay of it. Not too sure why. But yep, there we go. Seeing another replay once again, as now we've got Bottas and Perez is in the pit lane, but Bottas now just closing up to Daniel Ricciardo down the main straight. He might make a move here into turn 1. He's gaining, but he's a bit too far away. I've done a crofty there. I do apologise. But Bottas surely is going to get past Ricciardo very, very shortly here, as of course the Mercedes is much quicker than the Renault.
I will say, if he can't get past, that'd be incredibly embarrassing. But yeah, Sergio Perez has pitted and come out in 16th place. Perez is going for the undercut. So on lap 20 out 70, Perez is going for it as Lewis Hamilton, now on lap 20, is 1.4 seconds behind Max Verstappen. So it's closing up at the front. We've got an epic battle at the front. 2 drivers in a class of their own at the front. But Albon's now to P12, and it's Magnussen 13th. And then Ricciardo is 14th. But I expect Hülkenberg, Grosjean, one of the Toro Rossos to be in the pit lane basically right now, because Perez has triggered the undercut part of this Grand Prix. Perez is 16th, Russell is 17th, Grosjean is in the pits, and that's a good move by him. Russell is 17th, and then it is Stroll 18th. As Bottas closing on Ricciardo, and is he close enough? He tries for it down the inside, but he's not close enough. A good defending there by Ricciardo, as Grosjean comes out. Where is he? Pit exit now. Will he be jumped by Sergio Perez? He is! Perez is ahead! Perez is ahead by about 1/10 of a second, and now another 7/10 of a second. So Perez is in an effective P9 in this Grand Prix. Great job there by Racing Point. So Hülkenberg for now is P9. Daniel Kvyat is P10, and then it's Albon in P11, and Kevin Magnussen is P12. Daniel Ricciardo now on the hard compound tyres up to 13th. Valtteri Bottas, after the early front wing change, is now 14th, but now stuck behind Daniel Ricciardo. And now this is where his race gets tough, because these drivers he's going to try and pass, they're not easy to pass. They're proper good Formula 1 drivers. As yes, Perez is 15th, and then it is Grosjean in 16th, and then Russell, Stroll, and then Giovinazzi and Kubica.
Ricciardo now has DRS on Magnussen, and he's gaining down the main straight. Could he make a move into turn 1? He's going to go try and set up a switchback line out of turn 1 to potentially make a move out of turn 2. He is close, and with DRS on Kevin Magnussen, is he going to make a move? No, Magnussen defends more or less the outside line, so Ricciardo can't go anywhere. So he stays behind Kevin Magnussen for the time being in P13, as Bottas, because Ricciardo got DRS on Magnussen, not able to get past Ricciardo for another lap.
Absolutely. And I will say, because Ricciardo is on hard tyres, if Ricciardo can just remain in DRS of someone, then Valtteri, if Valtteri can't get properly close at the final corner, I don't see how Valtteri can get past at the moment, as Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton on lap 22 are separated for the lead by 1.2 seconds. Will we see an undercut? The pit window is now open for the medium tyre runners. So we'll see what happens. By the way, the soft tyre runners, Sainz, Norris, Raikkonen, have done very well to be in the position they're in. They're miles clear of the Hülkenberg, Kvyat, Albon fight. And Lewis Hamilton is going to come in for an undercut. So Hamilton is going to try and do the undercut on Max Verstappen, as Daniel Kvyat has pitted. Just want to show this quick picture of a Toro Rosso battle. Great battle up to turn 4. Can Hamilton...
Bottas locking up.
And now Hamilton continues. So a dummy there by the Mercedes team. as Kvyat comes out right behind Roman Grosjean. And yep, it was a dummy. So let me just quickly redo the order. So Hulkenberg is still 9th, hasn't pitted yet. Neither is Albon in P10. P11 is Kevin Magnussen. And then in P12 is Daniel Ricciardo. Ricciardo looking good for a, maybe not a points finish, but a finish close to the points. And I think what Ricciardo is going to do is probably go on the soft tyres at the end of the Grand Prix to try and get past people. Bottas is 13th. Perez is 14th and actually going quicker than Valtteri. So Valtteri's not even in a points finishing or in a strong finishing position right now for the rest of the race, honestly. Grosjean is 15th, and then it is Daniel Kvyat in P16. As we're seeing a replay of Max and Lewis at the front. And Max's front tyres look like they've just gone on. They look absolutely beautiful as he comes through the turn 6 and 7 chicane.
I have heard Max complain on the radio of him losing grip, though. But I must say, I'm sure that Mercedes actually did have an intention of pitting Hamilton, but the gap that they had in mind must have closed. I assume that must have been the gap with Sebastian Vettel for P4, so that's probably why they come back into the pit lane.
As we're now seeing, Hamilton is just about within DRS, but we're not in a DRS zone as of yet. But Hamilton, you can see on board, he's pushing hard. He wants this P1. And Max is going to have to work for it, as Max is now being held up by a racing point of... who is that?
Lance Stroll.
Lance Stroll.
Oh, sorry, it's Perez. It was Perez.
Perez getting lapped already. That's how quick Max and Lewis are. They're lapping P14, and Valtteri is only 11 seconds away from being lapped. So great pace at the front. As Charles Leclerc is P3 and already 18.5 seconds off the lead, I think, or off Lewis Hamilton. So that's about 19.5 seconds off the lead. So yeah, Ferrari not having the pace at all. They're losing about 3/4 of a second a lap over the course of the race so far. As we are about to start lap 25 out of 70, and Max Verstappen is your leader by 1.2 seconds. Charles Leclerc is 3rd. Sebastian Vettel is 4th. Carlos Sainz is 5th. Lando Norris is 6th. As Daniel Kvyat has passed Roman Grosjean for an effective P10. As Raikkonen is 7th, Gasly 8th, Hulkenberg 9th, Albon 10th, then Magnussen, Ricciardo, Bottas, Perez, and then Kvyat 15th. So Kvyat, at the moment, again, looks as though he is in an effective P10 for Toro Rosso, which is what their aim, I'm sure, was for this Grand Prix. As we're now seeing the Verstappen versus Hamilton fight, and simply, these two are not going to come into the pits until they have a window to drop into and not lose time. But because Ferrari are still out, and because Ferrari are right on the window, they can't pit yet. Saying that, Red Bull look as though they're ready for a pit stop. But if I was Red Bull, I wouldn't pit right now. I don't think it's time. But Max Verstappen thinks it's time as he comes into the pit lane. The race leader in the pits, as they only just come out for him. So it must have been a very late call there. As Verstappen in the pits and Hamilton continues. And in comes Max Verstappen for hard compound tyres, as I'm sure Hamilton will now get the message about hammer time. Great pit stop. 2.6. And where will he come out? He will come out ahead of the two Ferraris. But look, traffic, lapped traffic. That's not what he needs. That's exactly what Lewis Hamilton needs, though. So Hamilton takes the lead, hasn't pitted yet. But if Max gets held up by the traffic, then this is Lewis's race, as the Ferraris are a pit stop behind the lead battle between Hamilton and Verstappen. So yeah, Ferrari's race pace not good at all. Do you think Verstappen can hang on here, Nib?
I think he can hang on here. The undercut at Bahrain, sorry, not Bahrain, at Budapest is certainly the stronger option to go with, and you should be quicker on your outlap. But needs to make sure that he doesn't get held up here by Lance Stroll and George Russell. As there we go, Leclerc and Vettel have not pitted behind Verstappen still. But I think Max is being held up here by Lance Stroll, and that could create an opportunity for Hamilton to get past. But it looks like Hamilton has decided to stay up for another lap. Mercedes perhaps betting on Verstappen getting held up by traffic even more. Or perhaps they just want to go a little bit longer as Hamilton's feeling confident on those compounded tyres to go a little bit longer and then get an advantage on Max on those hard compounded tyres later on. But there we go. The average time lost by a pit stop is 20 seconds. So at the moment, Max should come out in front. So we're going to keep an eye on that gap.
Absolutely. It's going to be close. It's going to be very, very close, as the order is still remaining the same as Lewis Hamilton comes over the turn 6 and 7 chicane. It's quali time for Lewis Hamilton as he goes through turn 8, turn 9. And if I was Mercedes, I'd probably come for a pit stop now, unless they want to try and go longer so they can have fresher tyres for the end to try and launch an attack on Max at the end. But the great thing is, as we're on lap 27 out of 70, we're not even at half distance yet. So this battle for the win has a long, long way to go. Not over yet by an absolute mile. As Verstappen does a fastest sector 1 and Hamilton stays out. Verstappen has only gained about 3 or 4 tenths, I think, so far on this lap. That's still good. Still good, but you would expect more on the undercut. And as Nib said, the undercut at Budapest is really, really strong. As Sebastian, yeah, not Bahrain. As Sebastian Vettel is very close to Charles Leclerc, and Ferrari are coming out for hard tyres. So Ferrari coming in for a pit stop, and it is Charles Leclerc. Ferrari have had a very, very, very quiet race. As Max Verstappen Max Verstappen does a new fastest lap, 1:20.9. Great for him. As Charles Leclerc pits for hard tyres, and Charles will come out in a comfortable P4 because Carlos Sainz is a pit stop behind in P5. By the way, again, the McLarens are doing really, really well right now on the soft tyres to go to lap 28, and there is Carlos in the background. So great there by McLaren. Vettel now P3. Vettel had closed the gap from 2.4 to 1.2 by the time of the pit stop, so if Vettel can pump in a great lap, Sebastian could end up on the podium here. As Max is still gaining on Lewis, not massively though, but he is gaining a couple tenths here and there on Hamilton.
But one thing's for sure, Hamilton, if he pits, will not come out ahead of Verstappen unless Verstappen makes some sort of mistake. So I think Hamilton and Mercedes might just be going long and then planning to attack Max in the back end of the Grand Prix. As we've seen, Max was struggling towards the end of that first stint with his tyres, although they looked completely fine, as you can see there. Max very comfortably faster than Hamilton on the previous lap, and now Max really theoretically has a 2.5 second lead over Lewis Hamilton at the moment. Theoretically, if Hamilton was to do that, was to lose 20 seconds from a pit stop. But yeah, Hamilton, I assume, is just going to go a little bit longer and hopefully bet on those fresher tyres towards the end of the Grand Prix, giving him an advantage over Verstappen, as we're seeing some sort of replay here from Hamilton down the main straight. Not entirely sure why.
There you go, it was a lock-up.
A little bit of lock-up. There we go. They showed us the wrong replay to begin with. They loaded up the wrong one. Oh, well.
Look at this. As Norris and Gasly in the pits, so is Albon. But look, Ricciardo still ahead of Bottas for P12, but Valtteri looks a bit closer. Lewis is about to lap Bottas. That's going to be embarrassing. As Valtteri very close to Ricciardo, so is Ricciardo to a McLaren. We need to be seeing that right now, but we're not. And Ricciardo has got past Norris. Norris has just pitted, so that's bad news for Lando. Look at that. Ricciardo past Norris. Now Bottas held up, so that's great news for Daniel Ricciardo to try and build somewhat of a gap and get back at Magnussen, as that is a Red Bull ahead of Pierre Gasly, who has also just pitted. So Carlos Sainz is P5, Kimi Raikkonen P6. They both haven't pitted. P7 is Nico Hulkenberg, nor is he pitted. 8th is Gasly. 9th is Kevin Magnussen. By the way, Albon has also jumped Grosjean, so Grosjean is now starting to drop back. As Ricciardo hasn't pitted, he's P10. Lando Norris has just pitted, and shame for him, he's come out in P11. Let's see what happened at the pit stop.
And behind Gasly as well.
And yeah, Gasly's jumped him. That's absolutely correct. So Gasly has jumped Norris. So Raikkonen will as well, presumably. As a slow pit stop for Norris and also Albon.
Yeah, quite a delay on the rear left tyre coming off there for the McLaren. Real shame as Norris now trying to get past Ricciardo, but Ricciardo DRS on Magnussen, who he's just got back in the DRS window. But look how much grip Lando Norris has head to Daniel Ricciardo, and he's going to go look to make the move around the outside. A little lock up there for Lando Norris, but Ricciardo covers that move off around the outside very nicely, as he so often does it himself.
Yeah, great defense there by Daniel Ricciardo. And, well, you may not think it, but Ricciardo, if he does put the soft tyres on and can start to pull away whilst he's still out on the hard tyres, you never know. He could be fighting Lando later if Lando does get held up or has some kind of issue. So that's why in the midfield you do have to defend even though you haven't pitted yet, because you never know. You could end up being right there. As Pierre Gasly has jumped Kimi Raikkonen because Kimi's pitted. So Kimi is he's still in a net P7. Kimi jumped Norris but lost to Gasly. So Raikkonen gets the same end result. So Hulkenberg is 6th, Gasly 7th, and then Raikkonen 8th, as Norris has way more grip than Ricciardo, and we're not seeing it because Valtteri Bottas... Oh no, Lewis Hamilton in the pits, and Norris easily gets past. That was always going to happen. Lewis Hamilton now in the pits, and he will come out, Lewis, in... bit of a slow pit stop. 4.0. Oh, that's going to cost him. Slight bit of time towards the end. He will be P2 though, as there's Max Verstappen lapping Roman Grosjean. So, on lap 32 out of 70, Max is back in the lead after the only round of pit stops. Lewis is 2nd and 6 seconds behind. Lewis is going to have to hope he has a lot of grip towards the end, because that is going to be hard to catch. And if he does catch and eventually pass Verstappen, then this will be one of Lewis's classic drives. There's a replay, and it was the front right, I think. I'm not sure.
Yeah, front right.
Yeah, front right tyre not going on as quickly as they wanted, as we're now seeing... What is this?
That's Gasly.
Gasly on Hulkenberg. Yep, Gasly on Hulkenberg. And Pierre should be able to just comfortably blast past. Down to turn 1. And there you go. Yeah. Past Hulkenberg. For P6. And Pierre is... I don't know how far behind Sainz. He's... Sainz is pitted. So Sainz is in an effective P5 at the moment. That'd be great for McLaren if they could get that. That's a Gasly P6, Hulkenberg P7. And then, yeah, Raikkonen as a... Bottas has passed Ricciardo. We haven't seen it, but Valtteri Bottas has passed Ricciardo as Norris trying to go on a move with Magnussen. But Magnussen covers it aggressively. But yeah, Valtteri Bottas finally passed Daniel Ricciardo. But he's still not in a points-paying position. And Valtteri has to go another 37 laps on that compound of tyres if he wants to go to the end. And, well, he's a pit stop. If he pits again, then he's a pit stop behind Raikkonen, Norris, Gasly, and Sainz.
The gap between Verstappen and Hamilton was 6 seconds after he come out of the pits, but it is now down to 4 seconds already. Lewis Hamilton is on a different planet at the moment, as we're seeing a replay of Bottas move on Ricciardo. Ricciardo going to go a little bit deep in the Bottas with a little switcheroo with much more grip than Ricciardo. Ricardo's tyres starting to wear out a little bit more, and comfortable move there for Valtteri Bottas. Finally, is Norris looking to make a move on Kevin Magnussen. He's going to go around the outside, is he? Magnussen forces him just about off the track, but Lando Norris around the outside of Kevin Magnussen at turn 1. Fantastic move there by Lando Norris as Magnussen forced him right to the edge of the track. But Norris held on just about and is moved up into P9 as Hamilton set the fastest lap of the Grand Prix and is now only 2.5 seconds behind Max Verstappen.
It was a 19.6. What planet is he on? As he's now only 2.5 seconds behind. As let me just update some of this order. So Norris is P9 now. Magnussen is P10 and Bottas ahead of Ricciardo. But Hamilton has an insane amount of grip. Maybe he saved fuel during his outlap, so who knows? And now he's only 1.7 behind. We're going to get a battle for the win very soon. And I think, by the way, as Bottas locks up, goes slightly wide, I think Sebastian Vettel, who is currently P3 and has not pitted yet, I think he'll be going for the soft tyres at the end if he stays out any longer. And Hamilton only 1.2 behind. Now only 1.1. They're about to start lap 35, which is going to be the midway point of the Grand Prix. As Valtteri Bottas is going to do a switcheroo through turn 1 of Magnussen, and Magnussen just has no grip, and Valtteri powers past as Lewis Hamilton does another new fastest lap. What is it? A 19.3. And look at this, 6 tenths behind. Hamilton goes a bit wide, but he has DRS, and that's all that matters. And Lewis Hamilton is on the prowl. And who can stop him now? As he's caught 6 seconds in 3 laps. As he now is coming into turn 4. And Nib, how is Verstappen going to stop Hamilton?
He's going to have to find some way to keep Hamilton behind. But if he's able to keep Hamilton behind for a couple of laps here, who knows? The Mercedes front tyres could start to overheat, as of course you lose grip and your tyres start to overheat if you're behind another car. So it's crucial that Max can just keep Hamilton behind for as long as he possibly can here, so that hoping that Hamilton has to drop off to manage some temperatures. But Hamilton here, I'm sure that he's going to be very keen to get past Max Verstappen. He's really made a statement since he's come out of the pit lane, as he's only about 7 tenths of a second behind Verstappen coming through the last couple of corners now. And if he's within about 7 or 6 tenths on the exit of this final corner, and you can see how good the front end is on that Mercedes, as he was able to tuck. Oh, as Verstappen's got DRS off the Toro Rosso there, has he? No, he hasn't, but he's Verstappen having to defend from Hamilton down into turn 1. But Hamilton is going to try and do something into turn 2, is he? No, doesn't look like he's going to be able to, as Verstappen's got a relatively good exit out. But Hamilton is just trying everything. He's nearly gone off the track there in search for more grip. And Hamilton's lost quite a bit of time there, but I'm sure he'll be able to gain it all back up, as this battle for first is really now heating up.
Absolutely. More updates. Kimi Räikkönen has passed Hülkenberg. Gasly now within DRS of Carlos Sainz for P5. And Valtteri Bottas is P10 past Kevin Magnussen. And the rest of the field is how it is. But now we look at Verstappen versus Hamilton. And Verstappen now pulling out a DRS. That is critical for his race. But as I said a moment ago, we still have half of the race to go. So if Max can win this, it'd be incredible for him to do that with the amount of pressure he is under. And yet Hamilton trying to somehow go around the outside at turn 2. That was never going to happen. But Lewis, if Lewis can just get back into the groove again and get back in DRS, he should be able to try and make a move soon. As Verstappen is now going to lap Daniel Kvyat, who is in P14. And Kvyat is in a net P10, I believe, for this Grand Prix. As, Hamilton now closing back in. Hamilton now 9 tenths of a second behind. There's Toto Wolff on the TV as Max laps the Toro Rosso. So does Lewis Hamilton. Great back marker work there, even though you don't want that as a compliment on your CV. As Verstappen now comes to the turn 6 and 7 chicane. The next driver to lap is Sergio Perez. and he will probably get lapped at the end of the lap, and Jos Verstappen looks very nervous because he knows that with 33 laps to go, we're on lap 37 out 70 by the way, that Lewis Hamilton is going to be a very, very hard man to stop, as Verstappen's still behind Perez at the moment, as they're now coming in, and Verstappen getting held up a bit here. And yeah, he's getting held up a bit as Norris has just passed Hulkenberg, and Lewis Hamilton now getting very close to the back of Max Verstappen. Verstappen though gets DRS, and Perez has got to let these two through as Hulkenberg has pitted. And Hamilton comes through, and that's great for Max Verstappen that he had DRS then, because Hamilton was all over the back of him. So
yeah, Perez certainly did hold him up in the last sector, but the slipstream and DRS helped Max massively to help defend from Hamilton there. The traffic, of course, is going to play its part here, but glad to see that it didn't actually affect Max there.
yeah, good to see that. Good to see also that he didn't have his race destroyed by a back marker. But then again, lapping the back markers. Yeah, lapping the back markers is also a skill. But Nico Hulkenberg, yes, as I was saying, has pitted and come out in 15th place. So that's a net P12, I believe. But I think Kvyat, I think Hulkenberg will now start putting some good laps because he is now on a lot fresher tyres by about 15-20 laps on Perez, Kvyat, and also Albon. So we just quickly update that as Lewis Hamilton climbing all over the back of Max Verstappen in the final sector. How is Max going to stop Hamilton? I don't think he will, as they now come round the final corner. He's going
to have DRS and slipstream on Ricciardo.
Oh, he is. Ricciardo's old mate's helping him. Here comes Lewis Hamilton down the pit straight, down to turn one. Hamilton round the outside. Verstappen holds the inside, but Lewis will come back on the switchback down to turn two. Lewis around the outside. Can he get the move done? No, he cannot. But Max goes slightly wide, and Lewis will get a great run through turn three. He gets the slipstream up to 4. Lewis around the outside. Can he get the move done? He goes off the track and have to let him back through. And he does. Oh, great battling. And we've got 31 more laps of it. Max Verstappen maintains the lead ahead of Lewis Hamilton. Great battling there, Dib.
And that's a little bit of a teaser of what is to come. Boy, oh boy, that was a fantastic little scrap there that we've just had between Hamilton and Verstappen. Hamilton absolutely read what Verstappen was going to go and do deep into turn two, and then nearly around the outside at turn 4. But of course, going off the track and getting some dirt on his tyres, it's going to take a little bit longer to get back into the groove. But Hamilton, if he had made that move around the outside, not going to be able to do it though, as Max was kind of there and he couldn't turn into the corner properly. Great to see some great battling between these drivers. But Verstappen has somehow got DRS off another back marker here, who's just come to the pits. I believe that was Kevin Magnussen, who was just coming to the pits. But Hamilton, I assume on this lap, is going to close back in as his tyres will be cleaned up a lot more now.
Yeah, he should now. He's 1.4 seconds behind. We're on lap 40 out 70. And he's now, 1.4 seconds behind. And he will start closing as Sebastian Vettel finally comes in, and I think he'll go on soft tyres. Surely. Yes, he does. Soft tyres, so Vettel versus Leclerc for the podium. And Vettel, slow pit stop. Cost him 5 seconds, about 3 seconds.
Front right.
Yeah, but he's on soft tyres though, so he should do the fastest lap of the race, and he should be in contention for 3rd place. But good result at the moment for Ferrari, 3rd and 4th. That'd be a great result for them if they got it.
Well, Vettel is 20 seconds behind Leclerc, so that's going to be quite some margin to bounce back. And surely there's going to be a high amount of degradation on those soft compounded tyres.
Yep, they're
so
probably
maybe not.
We'll see. As Hamilton again loses time to Max. Max was about 0.3 quicker on that lap. So the battle is over for now. But again, we have 29 laps to go in this Grand Prix. And let me just get another picture on the screen of Lewis Hamilton, who is looking really good at the moment. Yes, he has dropped back, but it's going to be tough to stop Lewis for, you know, the next 29 laps. And Lewis will come back at Max. There's no doubt about it. I think Lewis is just cleaning the tyres, getting back into the groove, and should catch that back up. Remember, Lewis is on a few laps younger tyres, so by the end, Max will start to struggle. Here is Lewis Hamilton on the screen. There you go. And I need to quickly update the order because of Kevin Magnussen's pit stop. So, lap 40, about to be lap 42 out of 70. Max is pulling away still from Hamilton. Another 3/10 on this lap. So it's Verstappen, Hamilton, Leclerc, Vettel, Sainz, Gasly, Raikkonen, Norris, Bottas. Ricciardo is P10. Ricciardo is the highest runner not to pit. Perez is P11 and in a net P10 because obviously Valtteri is probably going to go to the end, but Valtteri's pace is not spectacular and his tyres will go off, so we'll watch out for that. But yeah, Perez is 11th and then it is Kvyat in P12. Alex Albon is P13. P14 is Nico Hülkenberg. 15th is Magnussen. Magnussen has passed Grosjean somewhere, so I think K-Mag might be on soft tyres because he's already 3 seconds clear and catching Hülkenberg. And then it's, yeah, Magnussen, Grosjean, Russell, Stroll, Giovinazzi and Kubica. By the way, shout out to Russell again for still being ahead of a Racing Point and an Alfa Romeo. As Stroll and Stroll and Giovinazzi are having an epic battle for 18th place. As Hamilton is gaining on this lap by a couple tenths of a second. So it looks as though Lewis has got back into the groove as they come to the final corner now to start lap 43 out of 70. And here, so Grosjean let him through. And to be honest, that should happen because K-Mag's on soft tyres, Roman is on worn hard tyres. So, yeah, sensible decision. As Max is now coming back under threat from... go on.
You did ask me what does Max have to do here to stop Hamilton, and he did exactly what he needed to do. He just kept Hamilton behind when Hamilton's tyres were absolutely at their best. Somehow he kept Hamilton behind. Great defending by Max Verstappen. But now it's going to be a little bit more difficult for Hamilton the second time around, of course. His tyres won't be in as good a shape as what they were. Of course, Max's tyres will be wearing out as well, but the grip differential won't be as large as what it was. So it's going to be much more difficult for Hamilton to get past Verstappen, as if it isn't already difficult enough, as there is Bottas coming up to be lapped by Verstappen and Hamilton.
Here we go. This is not something that we thought was going to happen. And Valtteri is actually right on the back of Norris. So Valtteri now starting to get after the highest midfield runners. Gasly is still half a second behind Carlos Sainz. As, yeah, Verstappen and Hamilton are going to lap Bottas. If Mercedes are smart, they'll get Bottas to hold up Max Verstappen a bit.
But just to continue my point now, Hamilton just having to sit a little bit further behind Verstappen to manage his tyres and to obviously manage some temperatures potentially. Obviously can't hear all of the team audio communication between Hamilton and his team. But one thing is for sure, that Hamilton just having to manage things a little bit more now, as there's a little bit of brake dust coming out from Bottas there.
There is, as Hamilton is still closing in. Lap 44 out of 70. Hamilton now 1.2 behind Verstappen. So Lewis is slowly but surely closing that gap. And if Valtteri, and now here we go, and Valtteri decides to let him through, and Lewis Hamilton. And Hamilton lost about a tenth of a second lapping Bottas, but I don't think Lewis would have got inside the DRS anyway, as they now come to start. As Max, I think had a bit of a moment there, as Max comes to the line to start lap 45. 25 to go before the start of the summer break. It's Max leading from 1 second to Lewis Hamilton. 36 seconds behind in third place is Charles Leclerc, who's losing about 7 to 8 tenths a lap to these two. Vettel fourth, not closing in that much. Carlos Sainz is fifth, Gasly sixth, and Raikkonen, Norris, Bottas, Ricciardo. And then outside the top 10 and finishing, we've got a full field finishing at the moment, is Perez, Kvyat, Albon, Hulkenberg, Magnussen, Grosjean, Russell, Stroll, Giovinazzi, and Kubica. As now, Max Verstappen is going to lap his good friend, iRacing teammate, Lando Norris, who I'm sure will not make it hard for him at all. And there you go, lets him through straight away, and we'll let Lewis through. Oh no, he doesn't. He doesn't. He's going to make Lewis wait. I know he goes through now, but that would have affected Lewis slightly. And Norris continues.
No brake pedals falling off.
Norris continues in P8, and now Valtteri will close back in on Lando Norris. By the way, just want to say thank you guys so much for the viewership. We have 2,000 people watching live, and we've had that for quite a bit of time. So thank you guys very much. And if you are new, don't forget to subscribe, as we do race watch-alongs for every race of the season. So don't forget to subscribe for that. Bottom right of the screen, you can do it right there, or just go to my homepage, subscribe, and hit the notifications bell. But anyway, back to the race.